but you will be asked to accept.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. And then I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah, Manuel, that's for people who cannot attend, as we agreed, it was only for people who cannot attend.
Yeah, absolutely. That worked for me, but just want to make sure that everyone knows that they're being recorded.
Right.
Okay, so basically, these are my few slides. So Helpful Village is the company I founded 7 years ago. It's actually the only village in the world, the only company in the world that is village only. All our customers are villages, and that's all we do. And then how I got started is explained here, basically. This is a picture of my mom and my daughter on the left. And my mom's professional activities that she was taking care of the family vineyards that you can see on the right. So we were producing grapes and a little bit of wine. And that was great. It was great until she got knee surgery. And when she got knee surgery, her professional activity became immediately impossible because she would get back home with swollen knees and then basically just, mom, you cannot keep walking on uneven fields on the fields. You need to stop working. So we need to have a mother-son conversation. And that's how we got a conversation with my mom, where I said, well, mom, with your knees being what they are, you cannot keep doing your work. So why don't you just retire? And I was that ignorant at the time because there is not such thing as just retiring. So basically she said no. And she said, I don't want to be at home doing nothing. And it was a shock to me, but she was right. The alternative I was offering was totally ignorant. I was offering her not to work, but there was nothing else to do. And she said a second thing that was a second shock to me. And she said, son, promise me you're not sending me to a nursing home, which is like, for me, made no sense. She's 63, she got knee surgery. It's like, mom, who goes to a nursing home because you get knee surgery at 63? But here again, she was right and I was wrong, because the question was not about today, was about what's happening down the road, right? So in our personal conversation, I think my mom brought up two of the most important questions about aging. The first one, which is about purpose, like, okay, I'm no longer working, what I'm gonna do. Just give me a second, because I have George, I think he's on the waiting list. He's coming in. And the second question was autonomy, right? How can I keep control of my aging process and lead the life I want to live going forward? So that got me researching, because I didn't have the answer for me.
Mute yourself.
Yeah. Let me go over a few. I don't know who that is, but there's definitely someone that needs to mute, I guess. Well, I'll keep going. So basically, it got. Wait a second.
Can you, George? Can you mute everybody, Manuel?
I'm doing that.
It's George.
That's okay. I should be able to get this. I'll stop the share. And I have mute, and then there is just, yeah, everyone's muted now. So thank you, sorry. And then this is my screen again. So what I was saying is that, God, lost my track. Here we go. We need to go in this mode. We did this already. So
aging process your mom.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I was saying is that my mom we were looking for an aging model for my mom, right? And I had no clue. So I started researching and I found the village movement. That was a perfect answer to my mom, because there were two things. First is, well, mom, you didn't want to stay at home doing nothing. Guess what? There is a lot of other people in the community that need a little bit of help, and you could be helping them do what? Basically staying away from the nursing home and staying aging in place in their homes. So that solves both your problems. So you should be joining a village, right? So that's great. The next thing I do is I go knock on the door of my local village. I was living in Berkeley, California at the time. And then it said, well, I would like to volunteer. How can I help? I'm a software engineer. And, I'd like to learn more about the model. And they said, well, Manuel, that's great, because we would like you to sit in front of the computer, because our volunteers don't want to use the software that we're using, because it's just too hard and too cumbersome, too difficult to use. So, okay, give that to me. I'm a software engineer. It's going to be easy peasy. And guess what? I tried, and it was not easy even for me, because there were some processes where I needed to copy paste some text from here to there and stuff like that. So definitely I thought that it was a great concept, but the technology was not up to the challenge. So next thing I do is that start learning more about aging, just statistics about social isolation, the fact that older adults are a fifth of the population. There are millions of people that have the same issues and questions my mom had, and I decided to start a company about it. And I proposed to the UC Berkeley this project about building technology for the village model, and they supported it. So we became a UC Berkeley startup. They helped us build our marketing and sales strategies because I was coming from the technology side, but a company is more than just technology. And Berkeley played a key role, in particular, working with a professor at the School of Social Work that probably that Emily knows, because that's how we connected, I think. And he was great. Andy Sharlock taught me basically what aging community meant, and the different things about aging that I had no clue about. So we're definitely very thankful for all Berkeley provided us. But let's go back here to the to what happened when I knocked on the door of the village, right? This is what I saw. It's like I saw that the idea of the village was great, but the operations were very labor intensive. There was a lot of paper, there was a lot of phone calls when you needed to find a volunteer for a member that had made a request. There was a lot of basically one-on-one interactions rather than sending the volunteer opportunities out in an easier way. So the whole plan and the foundational principle of Helpful Village is building one software, right, that is easy to use, so easy that even my mom can use, that is customizable, that has all these modules, that is super affordable, with a high level of security, and with good reports so that we understand what the village is doing. So that's how basically Helpful Village got started. It's just an example of one of the things we do automatically that was not done automatically at the time. Is like every day the server wakes up, looks up all the service requests that they are on the system, and we send an individual email to each volunteer based on their volunteer skills, right? So if there are rides and this volunteer is a driver, we're gonna send the rides to that person. If a different volunteer is a handyman, we're gonna send a different volunteer email. If the volunteer receives this email, they can look at more details about that request and they can volunteer online by themselves. So by doing this, we just made it much easier to operate a village, and also more affordable, because obviously we don't need to have as much staff as villages used to have in the early days. Okay, the next thing here is about services. And here I would like to ask you a little bit about your own activities in your village. But basically, this is a pyramid showing what are the services that villages traditionally offer. In general, what I saw is that the villages across the country, what they were mostly doing is these two things. One is offering services, mostly volunteer services, when someone needed a ride, someone needed computer assistance, someone needed gardening help or something like that. Those were the services. And the second aspect was the social aspect, where people wanted to participate in these different social events, right? So that for me are the foundation of the village model. But then as we move on, and then the pandemic hit, we realized that we needed to adapt these services. So we added to Helpful Village these different functionalities so that services can now be provided being COVID safe. So we added some functionality so that we make sure that the volunteers are vaccinated before they do in-person services, if you want to do that right in your village. Same thing for events, where a lot of, when the pandemic hit, a lot of the events went on Zoom. But we integrated Zoom with the village calendar. So you go on the village calendar, you sign up for an event, and then you receive an automatic personal Zoom link that will take you to that event. So those are the two fundamental services. And I wanted to ask you at this point, because I don't know enough about your village, but my assumption would be that maybe it's one of these two services that you're already conducting or you're interested in doing. And I don't know if someone can, unmute himself or herself and let me know about what are the main activities of your village today.
Well, the Glen Rock Village that's looking at this model is not yet operating. It's in development.
Okay.
So it is not providing any services. And the Hub Village, which is North Jersey Villages, is providing an events calendar and services, resource information via the website. Yeah.
Great. And the new village that is in development, the plan is that it would be focusing on services and events mainly, or is it a different focus?
I don't think they haven't made specific decisions on what's going to be offered yet.
Yeah, and that's okay. Just
Early stage of development.
I just want to make sure that my presentation, I'm showing you, the things that you're interested in. But these are clearly two of the most popular village services across the country. But now there are more, right? Because when we were working with our villages and they were getting very good at doing services and events, we started working with them to offer more services to the members. So there are two other modules that we added to Helpful Village. One is this phone check-in system, so that you can have regular phone calls with some of the members. I believe every village should check in with their members sometimes. You see what I'm saying? The periodicity can be different, but if my mom is a village member, I would like her to be called at least once every 2 weeks, once every month, etc. And we make it easy with the software so that the volunteer knows when is the right time to call the member and stuff like that, and record that on the system. There is another aspect that is shown here, is this village talk. And I'll show you that that's essentially online conversations that happen on the website on this, safe space, protected, where, you know who the village members are. And these are online conversations. It's kind of funny because all the other services are more kind of in-person stuff like that. So I was wondering if this kind of very digital service would apply, but we have this village in Philadelphia that is doing great, doing this online conversation. I'll show you that a little later during our meeting today. And then the top of the iceberg here is actually some health service, but these health services we're not offering today is that we have received requests, for example, about vaccination records and stuff like that, that we could record on Helpful Village. We have had contact with medical providers that are interested in saying, well, villages make members healthier, so how about we start working together between the village, Helpful Village, and the healthcare provider. But I mean, that's something that will take a little longer. It's just want to show you in which direction we're going, but that's not existing yet, and obviously just an option for you. Some villages want to do some health, some others don't want to, so you have the choice. Okay, here I'll pause because at this point, I want to pause first for some questions. I want to know if someone wants to, take the opportunity to take some questions, because the next thing I want to do is show you a demo of the product. But before I show you the product, I want to make sure that we are all together. Is there any questions about any of the slides I showed before? And maybe there's not, and if there is not, it's totally fine. So what I'm gonna do is now I'm gonna show you the product, okay? This is a demo site that we have, and I'm logged in as an admin, right? So I can see that here, this is my picture. So I have a special rights. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to edit the website. And because I have admin rights, actually can come down here, and then there is a button here that says edit the homepage, okay? So you don't need to go to obscure place, control panel or something. Like you want to edit that page, just come here and then edit the text of this web page. The village movement is another organization in the Bay Area. So we can change this and say North Jersey. And then let's say that I want to change the color of this, and then say that this would be, let's say green. And then let's put this bold. And then I'm going to save this. And now we updated the website. So just an example to show you how important it is for us to make it super easy to use the software, right? You want to change this page, just if you have the appropriate rights, say edit, you have an editor, we change the Bay Area to North Jersey, and now the website has been updated, okay? So the website component is very easy to manage. The next thing that I want to show you is a little bit more exciting, is that we believe the villages, and you know that I started Helpful Village thinking about my mom. So the system is very person-centric. We want to help a person like my mom. So if my mom is calling the village, right? Oh, sorry. I can immediately type her name in here. And then I'll have different options here of, well, different people that are called Melda, Nelda, Griselda, but my mom is this one, right? So I click on her profile, and then on her profile, I can see different information. First of all, I can see a picture of herself, right? So I, obviously, if it's not my mom, I would see what does the person look like. And then here is going to store a lot of personal information about her email, what's her first name, preferred name, middle name. One thing that you'll notice is that obviously we're storing information, but also how easy it is to put this information into the system. There is one field at a time. It's very easy to fill out the form for my mom and her contact information here, okay? So once we enter last name, date of birth, etc. We just keep going through these other tabs. Now, let's say that we want to enter the address. When we enter the address, the same thing, such as number, street, city, state, zip code, just save the address and it's going to give you a map of her neighborhood. Then we keep going. Here you can see her membership information. So she's an active member. She's on this 6-month membership type. She's a primary member. She's a member since March. And then she has paid until 29th of March of 2024. There are some membership features that you can have here. She can renew her membership. You can set a monthly payment so that she can pay. You can charge her credit card or her bank account every month for her membership dues. But again, you see how easy it is. Every time when you need to do something about membership, well, you will see the information here. Renew membership, set a monthly payment. If we keep going, we can add additional information here. Can say who's her primary doctor, if that's some information your village wants to collect. There are these fields here that maybe I'll invite you to remember because this is gonna come up later in the demo. We can set up here in her profile some notes that we want to remember for every time she makes a request. For example, in this case, say that she uses a walker, volunteers need to have a space in the trunk and maybe help fold the walker, okay? And then there is a second field here that says it's an admin alert saying, Elda got knee surgery and cannot walk fast. So these are 2 notes about the person, okay? Then there is a ton more information we can store here. First emergency contact, that would be her daughter. There could be a second emergency contact. There is references, there is pets, there is other things, there's emergency plans, there is current health, there's mobility, home ownership. So it's a ton of information you can collect about your members would be stored in this tab, okay? Now if we keep going, we can see the volunteer activities this person has. So these volunteer activities are customizable, right? So in here, you just check the boxes. So if she wants to start volunteering for friendly visit, I can check this box, right? And that's it, and then save it. But obviously villages can customize their own options. Villages in the north, Minnesota, they may have, snow removal services where people in New Mexico may have other type of services. So you can choose the volunteer activities you want. But then once you have chosen your volunteer activities, you can say for this person, what are they doing? There are 2 categories here. Actually, these are services that you do for a member. So you're giving a ride to a member, you're gardening for a member, you're organizing for a member. And on this other right-hand side, this is what we call the Village Builder. It's essentially volunteer activities you can do for the organization, right? So here is like, oh, answering the phones, envelope stuffing. So this is stuff you would be doing for North Jersey villages, not for a specific person, right? And then, well, then you're done, you can save that. There is more information you can store about this volunteer. You can have what days they volunteer on. She's a volunteer since this date until this date. She has a driver license and an insurance. We'll send you an email on the 25th of the month if you have expiring driver licenses or expiring insurance so that you can contact these people. Then person can go on vacation. So if they go on vacation for some time, well, then you don't send them the email, volunteer emails, because they set up their vacation period. Some people can unsubscribe from volunteer notifications if they say, well, I don't, because as I said before, we send a daily volunteer email to volunteer, but if someone doesn't want to receive it, well, they can uncheck this box. There are 2 boxes here that are important. One is a safe service clearance. This is about the health guidelines I showed you earlier, right? So you can define some volunteer activities, let's say driving, right? Where you require the volunteers to fulfill some health guidelines conditions. Some villages use that for vaccinations, like, well, for driving, we want volunteers to be vaccinated. So basically we would check the vaccination records of this person. And then if he's vaccinated, I'll check this box. If it's unchecked, this volunteer will not be able to do the volunteer services that require vaccination. So that's embedded there. That's something we added during COVID. There's this other box that is interesting, is also a screen. So basically this is what you can have a person that is interested in becoming a volunteer, but there is a screening process by the village, right? And then you have several conditions, maybe background checks and stuff like that. And then only once they get this checkbox checked, it means that they are ready to volunteer. In the meantime, if this is not checked, I'm actually gonna do it. I'm gonna remove this box. I'm gonna, oops, sorry, it's here. And then I'm gonna save it. And now you see here, there are these 2 dots here on the top level here. There's a green dot here. that shows that she's an active member. And now there is a red square on this side. The red square shows that she's not an active volunteer at this moment, for a good reason, because we removed the screen checkbox, right? So you can quickly see if this person is an active volunteer for your village or if it's not. So let me go back. I'm gonna bring her back as a volunteer, save this. And now you see this turned into a green button because she's now an active volunteer again, because she has been screened by the village. Go down. You can ignore this box, but we have some villages that operate in, well, actually, maybe it's interesting to you, but this is what we call hub and spoke, right? And this example is for New York City. So you can have different neighborhoods that you're serving. One of our largest customers is Marine Villages. They have over 500 members. They're serving 4 or 5 different towns in their county. And then basically they want to make sure that it's easy for their volunteers to volunteer primarily in their local town, right? Because sometimes you don't want to drive for 15 miles to do something. So that's also here you can choose for each volunteer, what are the neighborhoods they want to volunteer for, right?
Manuel? Manuel, question. So you mentioned the vaccination status. So for some services, a volunteer would have to be vaccinated.
Yes.
Do you have it the other way as well, where some volunteers will only provide services to vaccinated people?
No. So no. So I mean, for me, if a volunteer is vaccinated, okay, I get it. Now I see what you're saying. Because for me, it's like, well, the volunteer can still help the other person that is not vaccinated, but you're saying maybe the volunteer doesn't want to. So that's a good question, but we didn't think about that. So it's a good point.
Because that's just me as a volunteer, I would not voluntarily drive somebody who wasn't vaccinated.
Yeah.
So it's just a different kind of question.
Certainly, I understand. And I can tell you a little more about that. So we don't have the specific case you're saying, but what we have is that this specific feature is something we develop based on the request of our customers, right? So we do a monthly meeting with our villages, right? And this is how it comes about, saying they come to basically to us saying, hey, we have this situation where we want to have our volunteers volunteering, but they need to be vaccinated. How can we maybe modify the software? You see what I'm saying? It's like, I'm showing you the product as it is today, but we obviously, as you have seen, we make it evolve over time. So that's an idea that, that could be implemented in the future. Okay, let me keep going. Thank you for the question. Then we can have here a list of vetting steps, and villages have different vetting steps, can be, these background checks and other things. Actually, we have the background checks here that are embedded into Helpful Village. So we work with a background check provider. So if you click on this button, and then you see for this member, we can request a background check of different nature, right? So you can do a basic criminal with a motor vehicle report, or maybe if this person is not a driver, just a basic criminal background check is enough. Or maybe just a motor vehicle report, because for some reason we just want to make sure that this person doesn't have any traffic records. So basically from here, each one of these reports, we're not producing it. We do it with this partner that does the actual criminal database search and stuff like that. So you can see here, what do they do? So they search into the National Criminal Search. They do the sex offender search, the social security trace, the global watch list search and stuff like that. So depending on which package you choose, for example, this one has obviously the DMV report included. And then the fees are a little different, right? So this one is $15. If you do only DMV, that will be only $5. And then there is a small fee for Helpful Village, 99 cents per report. And then there is more stuff in here because there is kind of sometimes county fees and municipal fees and stuff like that. But I just wanted to let you know that then here you can click this box and then basically run the background check on the person. Actually, the volunteer will receive an email inviting him to fill out the information to receive the background check. But our partner, when they receive the background check, they're gonna let us know and they will update this orange light into a green light. Okay, so that was for background checks. If we come back here to the personal profile, I'm gonna skip probably some of these tabs for now because it's maybe a lot, but let me try to go a little quickly.
Manuel, do you have background check for the members as well?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now here prospects so this is a module that allows you to basically follow up for people that are interested in becoming members or volunteers or actually donors. So basically here, imagine that you have a lady that came to an event that she's thinking about becoming a member, but she doesn't want to sign up just yet, right? Well, then what we would do here is we would create an upcoming task where you can define what you want to do with this person. Say, well, for this future date, I want to set up a phone call and invite her to the village party next week. Or I want to send a thank you for the donation message and stuff like that. Kind of what's your selling technique to make sure that you recruit this person either as a volunteer, as a donor, or as a member. So this is the prospects module. This one is easier to understand. This is basically the payments tab. You can have a monthly subscription. So she's making a $50 donation every month, and I can activate or deactivate that. This is the list of payments she has made. So she has made of $500 donation, monthly donation. She has repaid the $62.58 for renew membership. With a credit card, she made $500 donation with a bank account, and all these different payments she has done over time. Then here we can have the notes, different things you want to write about this member, these kind of free text notes. So basically here you can say, Cristina, this staff member updated Eldar record associating the user's membership with Scotty Upshire. Whatever note you need to write about, you can put it here on the notes of this person. The next tab is quite interesting because you can set up, see the different interactions of this member with the village. So here are different emails that we have been sending them. For example, if they made a donation, we send them an email, and this can be an automatic email that is sent to this person. And we're basically saying, well, thank you for this donation, stuff like that you made on this date and stuff like that. We also have a text messaging system. So some people, we definitely do an extensive use of the email as primary mean of communication. Some people don't do email and they prefer text messaging. So you can also send them text messages from Helpful Village. Actually, we have a great program right now. We're doing with a village in Houston, Texas, because it's tornado season there. And they set up emergency planning committee where they have text messages out in case tornado turns the power off and stuff like that. So, but anyways, that's for another day. You can see the events this person has participated in. So you can see that my mom went to yoga. She has been to the book club before. She has been to the poker team. So you can see if this member is someone that has been interacting with our social activities in the past, yes or no. And we can see here the volunteer services this person has received and the volunteer service this person has given. So basically it's a lot of this person's interaction with the system. Here you can see different documents you can upload to her profile. So sometimes you may want to scan a document, insurance card or something that you need to give in your records associated with this member. You can come here, upload the file, and it will be stored here. Okay, so that's, it took a little bit of time, but we went through all the information we can store about this person. Now I want to move on to a more exciting part of the demo, which is showing you kind of what the village can do for my mom, right? So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to one of our villages, a real village this time around, where they have their own website. And the first thing I wanted to show you is the calendar of events. So you click on calendar. This village is organizing all these events in July with these different color codes. So you could look at this. It's a masterclass in grilling. I would like to do this one. There's line dancing. I would do that one too. Monthly afternoon book club, etc. So obviously you have a calendar of events where a lot of things going on. You have also can look at the same events on a chronological list, which I think is really interesting because when you look at this, you don't even need to read what the events are about, just look at the pictures. So this is dancing, as you can see, this is fresh fruit and veggies. This you can see that is exercise and stuff like that. So my mom would come through all of this and basically choose one of the activities she wants. For example, this is so it's a little village ferry. So they're gonna go to the ferry trip on the Bay Area. So ton of activities people can come in and sign up for. So and you can come here, look
Manuel,
at
those events, they're not all sponsored by the village. They could be other groups' events, but they can register for other groups' events through the Helpful Village platform. How does that work?
Yeah, so you can have multiple settings for each one of the events you add to the calendar. We have villages that add, for example, this is like a high quality event, right? So if they're doing a ferry tour, they're actually selling tickets for this one. So you can, a member can go in, purchase a ticket because there is a ferry ticket included or something like that. And then you register. In some other cases, you have the free events, just come in, you don't purchase tickets, just register for the event. And in some cases, some of the villages want to put in there also kind of events that are good for older adults. Kind of, they look at the library events, and even if they don't need to register with the village to come to those, but they add them to the calendar and say, well, if you want to sign up for this event, you choose. You can have people signing up for the event on the village website, right? Then you can count the registrations, kind of good. But in some cases, like, well, this is a library event, just want people to find that event, but we don't want them to interact with us to register for something with the library, right? So you can have, rather than this button that says, well, register for this event, would be, okay, go to this external website for registration, and then send them to the library website.
Got it, thanks.
Cool. Perfect, so we did these events. I wanna move on to something different right now. And this is service requests, because remember the pyramid we were showing before, we were saying events is one of the big parts. The other one was service requests. So I'm going to do a service request with you. And that's also very easy. I can come here to the member area. These are actually different things the member can do on the website, right? So they can create a new service request. They can look at service requests they have. They can look at preferred vendors that are recommended. They can engage on online conversations. They can look at a members directory. They can look at newsletters of the village. They can renew their membership. You can look at the photo gallery, they can look at the blogs, right? So there's a ton of things that an older adult can do within their village, which is great. But what I'm gonna show you here is how this person gets a volunteer request. So very easy, so new service request. First thing I can do, actually this is what I'm showing you here is the admin view. So imagine my mom is calling the office, so I would type her name and then say, okay, select this person. I would ask her, okay, so, okay, Elda, this is great. So are you living still at 137 East? And she would say yes. So we know we have the right person. Actually, your village can decide if you want your members to call the office and the office creates the service request. Some other villages are okay if their members come in, log in, and they set up the request themselves. So if you can choose what mode you want to activate. If we were to allow my mom to create her own service request, she cannot search for members because she can only request service for herself, but she would start in a screen that would look like this. She sees her name and she can continue creating the service request. So now it's very easy. Like what? Okay, Elda, what is it that you need? Well, she needs a ride because she's going to, why do you need the ride for? Or she's going to a dentist appointment. So as you can see, it's very easy. We have this large font so that anyone can do it. We choose the date. So she's going there on the 27th. What time? So she wants to be picked up at her home at 10 because she has an appointment at the dentist at 10:30. Okay. There are other options here because in this case, the dentist is not a flexible date, but if what she wanted was to have someone visit her to repair her iPad or something, she could be flexible. So in that case, we have these other options. Okay, but she's going to the dentist. Where is your dentist appointment? Actually, her dentist appointment happens to be on this Empire State Building in New York City. And is it a round trip? Yes, we're gonna take her there and then come back. How long does she wanna stay there? She's gonna stay for an hour at the dentist. So the system calculates the end time, but you can modify it if you need it. Now, about 20 minutes ago, I asked you to remember these notes on her personal profile. Remember, the uses a walker, volunteers need to have a space in the trunk and maybe help fold the walker. So these notes that you have here, you can define the notes in her profile so that they pop up on the service request, right? So in this case, if she has a walker, chances are she will have a walker next week also. So it comes along very easily. But I can modify this. For example, I can delete or add anything else to these notes. Please ring the bell twice. So these are instructions for the volunteer. Then we go down here. I can choose what volunteers I'm requesting this for. So remember this hub and spoke and these different towns, but I can leave it empty also. And then that's it. At the bottom, there is a save button that makes a request. There are a couple more options here that I can explain in this case. And this is by village policy. You can decide that some requests are labeled as important. What we have some villages doing that they say, well, all medical appointments, including dentist appointments, are priority because consider them more important than, I don't know, a hairdresser appointment. So we give you the option to choose this box. And that's it. So if we go all the way up to the beginning, we say there is a service request for this person. What do you need? She needs a ride. For what? For a dentist appointment on this date, because she's going to this place for an hour. There's a few notes. And then this is important. So it cannot be made any easier, right? So at the end of the process, just say save. And this will create a service request where basically now we're reviewing what happened. So we see that this is the important label that highlights to volunteers that this one is one that we would like to fulfill for sure. On this date, at this time, for this member, we're giving a right to a dentist appointment. Now, some of the things that happen is that, remember we entered the destination was the Empire State Building. Well, that's great. Now the origin was added by the system because actually by default, we're gonna set the home address of the member, right? So this, remember, this was my mom's address in this example. So we're gonna create a service request that is a transportation service request starting at this time to this time from her home address, etc. Now, if she's not coming from her home address, she's coming from a different place, we can edit the trip and actually say where would she be coming from, and we can add more trips because maybe she's going to the dentist, but maybe she's going to the pharmacy after that, and maybe she needs to do another thing. So you can have multi-legs requests. As you can see, we create a map because we have the origin and destination. So a volunteer, when they come and review this service request, they can see that this is a 26 minutes ride. And maybe some volunteers want to do it, maybe some others don't because it's maybe too long for them. So, but we provide them with additional information. Here is where we add other notes that you can see here. The uses the walker note shows here. Now, there are a few boxes here that you can see on the left. These are admin boxes, so the volunteers will not see these boxes, but this allows your village coordinator to do more things. For example, additional beneficiaries would be a good example if it's for my mom, but then my dad is coming along, so it's not only a right for one person, but it's for two, so you can add more members to your request. We have this clone option. For example, there is this lady that we know that she goes to her hairdresser appointment every month, right? So rather than creating a new service request from scratch, you can say, well, I want to create 3 service requests for the next 3 months, right? And then clone the service request. So I don't need to type it all again. I'm just gonna replicate the same service request multiple times. And then here you can search a volunteer. If I have a volunteer on the phone, I just can call them. Anyways, these are different admin features. But we did nothing on this screen, right? I was reviewing it with you so that we verify what does the service request was doing. It was created from before, so it all looks good. Next thing I want to show you is not from the admin perspective, but what would a volunteer do to find the service request? So what they do is that they come under here, rather than going under the member area, they're gonna go to the volunteer area. And when they go to volunteer, they can choose different things they can do. And in this case, you want to look at the list of service requests. And when they do that, they see different things, opportunities to volunteers that they can do. For example, here they can see that this member, Guadalupe, is asking for computer assistance because she needs to have her computer fixed. This other Lucas Trust is looking for a friendly visit and go for a neighborhood walk, etc. So as a volunteer, I can choose, maybe some of the things that are more interesting to me. When you look at this list, you see that there is color coded. Actually, you may have some very active volunteers that come every day to the website. Well, it would be annoying if they had to read the whole page again, and we don't want that to happen. So they don't need to read any of these white opportunities here. They can, because the blue ones here are the new ones. The blue requests here are those that happen in the last 24 hours. So if I'm a very active volunteer that comes to the website a lot, I don't need to read these opportunities because I read them yesterday. I will only read this one, a doctor appointment, and the one that we just created together. You see it has the important label here on the 27th, and it's the dentist appointment, so I can click view. When I click view, this view sounds familiar to you because it's exactly what we saw before. If I'm a volunteer and I'm not an admin, I would not see these boxes, but the next thing I can do is like just come down here and say, I can do it, I volunteer, right? And if I hit on this button, that's it. Basically, now we have been matched, and basically now the service request is assigned to me. So if I go again to the, I have been confirmed as a volunteer for this request. So now there is my name. I can be removed if necessary. But if you go back to the list of service requests, remember there were 2 blue lines before? Or there's only 1 blue line now because one of them has been taken because there is a volunteer that already volunteered for it. Okay. So this one view where basically it's a chronological list. You can also have different filters on this view. For example, you want to see the service requests that are matched. Well, I see different service requests that are matched. All of these are matched with this volunteer. If I want to see the service request, all of them, the completed, the fulfilled, and stuff like that, I can choose this other filter. I can filter by volunteer activity. If I only want to see the request for driving or for handy person, stuff like that, I can also filter the list. And I can view as an admin the calendar view, which is quite interesting too, because this is basically the calendar of events of what's going on this week. So you see that this member requested something, and there is another volunteer activity on Friday. If we look at next week, we see that there is a volunteer that asked for something on Monday, and then other things by the end of the week. Now, this calendar view is color coded. So essentially what happened here is that the light green boxes here are member requests that have been matched with a volunteer. All these yellow ones here are still open. So as a village coordinator, I can click on them, say, well, this one has not been fulfilled. Let me see what it is about. And then here you see that she's going to a doctor appointment at a different time, etc. And so I can come down here and say, okay, maybe how about we find a volunteer that can do this? Or maybe I know a volunteer that usually helps her. I can make a phone call or something, and then basically, set the volunteer on a more manual mode. But essentially, we would like volunteers to volunteer on their own, either going through this list, right, of volunteer opportunities, and then select them and match themselves. Except there is one additional thing, is that maybe your volunteer, not all your volunteers are going to go to your website every day by themselves, log in and look at opportunities to volunteer. So we do another very important thing that I said before, and that is looking at, we send these volunteer opportunities once per day based on your skills. So we every morning at 10 a.m., the server will wake up, and for each active volunteer is going to select a list of volunteer opportunities that people can do. So then they can receive it from their inbox, check on their inbox, and then click on their email, and then from their email be taken to the website and assign themselves. Actually, it's something that would be similar to this. So you can do the automatic email. You don't need to do anything, but you can also do a manual email, because imagine you have an urgent request that is happening for tomorrow. So you can choose 1 or 2 service requests or 3. Actually, let me take this one, and this one. I take these 3, right? And I say, well, these 3 service requests, for some reason, they're super urgent because I want to have them fulfilled. And I can come down here, send them to the email messenger module. And then this is going to create an email that's going to go to my volunteer that are drivers, prepare this email, and then basically here, send them an email that is ready saying, well, this service request of the 3 service requests we selected, right? For this member at this address, for a dentist appointment, for a doctor appointment, etc. And then you can just come down here and send the email to your volunteer groups, either manually or automatically, in the next morning. Okay, so that's for the service request. There is another thing that is interesting about that. The volunteer would do, they match themselves, they do the service for the volunteer. At the end of the day, they will receive a service evaluation email. So they're going to be invited to let us know how did the service request go the previous day, right? So in this case, going to ask me, well, you gave a ride to Elda on this date. How did it go? The email will actually take me to this screen where I can see, okay, I took this person to a dentist appointment on this date. How did it go? You have 3 options. One is things went well, no problems. Things were okay. However, there was a minor issue, or things did not go well because for some reason, maybe, I don't know, the member canceled but didn't let me know, etc. So the volunteers and the members, actually both sides, have an opportunity to let the village know how did it go, and then enter here, things did not go well. The member was 15 minutes late. And then I can choose, right? The member was 15 minutes late. I can say things did not go well because I'm really not happy. But maybe you say, well, okay, she was 15 minutes late, but I don't care too much. So things were okay, however, minor issue. I can say the duration of my volunteer service, and I can also enter my mileage, right? If some village, you can choose if you want to collect the mileage information, but some of the villages are counting that for the volunteers. And then you submit this, and then basically this is letting the village know how this volunteer service went, okay? Perfect. I want to show you one more thing. And this is a completely separate aspect, but it's basically on the payment side of things. I want to make a donation with you. So this is donate button. Here I'm logged in as an admin. So I can search someone in the database. I'm going to search myself. And then here I can choose the amount of my donation. So if I want to make a $100 donation, I can do a monthly donation if I want. I can choose the fundraising campaign I want to give for. So let's say I want to give for the general fund. I have some other optional fields here like comments and stuff like that, but I wanted to show you just very simply here how to make a credit card donation on your website. So you see, first of all, that you're on the same website, right? And you want to click pay with credit card. You accept the terms, and then basically here I'm going to enter the credit card number. That's good because I added a wrong date. Basically, I said March 22, but this would be expired. So actually, the actual date is 3/23. So it's a good catch for the system. I didn't do it on purpose. Choose my zip code, and then basically I click this button, and doing that will create a donation on the system with the credit card number. Now, this credit card number that you see here goes through our payment partner. So we don't receive the credit card numbers. We don't store the financial transaction. But I wanted to show you how strong is our and seamless is our integration of the financial partner, right? So if you need to make a payment either with the credit card or the bank account, you make the payment, you have the feeling that you're on your Village website. You don't have the feeling that you went out to PayPal or some other different site. It's really a very neat integration. Okay, now I'm gonna come back here, and now I'm getting out of the website for a minute because I know it's a lot. So I want to give you a break and show you this other slide, which is quite rich too. And what I want to do now is that, you know, we went to the website, we have done multiple things. We saw the website, we saw how to edit my mom's profile, we looked at the events, we looked at the service requests. You know what? That's only about 15% of Helpful Village. So I don't have the time to show you all the modules that we have in our software, because actually Villages, even if the Village idea sounds simple, Villages actually do a lot of operations in parallel. And this is what this slide is about. It's showing you what are the different Helpful Village modules. So there is an editable website module that you saw, you know, superficially. There's this other module I did not show you. There's a menu manager that allows you to add more pages to your website. We kind of saw the people management piece pretty carefully because we saw how my mom's profile looks like. We saw superficially how to manage events. There is these other things that we mostly didn't see: how to send emails to your members, how to use email template for, you know, membership renewals. We send an automatic email 30 days before expiration date so that you can create an email template with the language you want, with the instructions to renew their membership. That one goes out automatically with the email messenger 30 days before expiration date. There's other things that I did not show you is these newsletters and MailChimp. So when you're sending emails out to marketing emails out, right, to let people know about your village, you would do that with MailChimp. And I don't know if you're all familiar with MailChimp, but MailChimp is basically a marketing tool that allows to send emails to a large mailing list. Now, the good news here is that Helpful Village is smart enough to talk with MailChimp. So if you add a new member into Helpful Village database, we will automatically add them to the marketing piece that sends your emails out when there is a newsletter coming up next month. The prospects, we only saw scratch the surface there. We did a donation together, but we didn't do there. You can do more payments. You can do payments for ticket purchases. You can do payments for membership renewals. You can do monthly payments. You can do monthly donations. There is a My Profile page that you did not see. But this essentially the member can go on and then, for example, write their bio and other information they may want to share with the village. You can put all your volunteers in different groups for their different group activities. I didn't show you that either. I didn't show you the providers, but you can have a list of recommended plumbers or you know, IT providers, stuff like that for your members to choose from. I have not discussed about reports, but I definitely want to do this before the end of the meeting. We scratched the surface of memberships. I did not show you Village Talk, which is the online conversations. Concierge service is essentially that when you create a service request, in some cases you want to offer it to your volunteers to do, and we did this one, the volunteer matching I showed you. But sometimes if we don't find a volunteer, Helpful Village gives you the possibility to match that request with one of the professional providers that we're recommending. So we can tell the member, okay, you needed this IT repair that you wanted to get done. Our volunteers don't want to do it because they think it's way too much, but we have the 3 trusted providers in the city. You can choose from one of these 3 that we recommend. And then if we go up here, there's the integration with Zoom, where basically you can create an event on Zoom from Helpful Village. And then there is the phone check-in system that I did not show you either. And this voice piece didn't show you either, and this is actually not available to our customers yet, but we're doing some prototyping there. You can interact with the Village platform with Alexa. So rather than going online and saying, hey, typing that you need a volunteer, you can actually do it with voice and say, hey, Alexa, ask my village for a volunteer. And the Alexa would say, when is that happening? Well, that's happening, for the 27th of March and stuff like that. But this one is still a prototype, so it's not available. So I don't want to talk too much about that one. So as you can see here, I know this demo goes fast and that I'm showing you a lot of things. And there's a ton more that I don't have time to show you. So that's how it is, I guess. Let me see. Okay, now next slide that I wanted to show you is how has our company been doing these last few years. So as I told you before, I created the company in 2016. So at that time, we had 0 customers. Not the most fun when you have starting a company, but then very quickly in 2017, we had about 12, 13 customers, essentially in the Bay Area, right? Because they started speaking to each other, say, hey, there is a new software that is easier to use than what we were using before. Have you tried it? And then this was word of mouth, and then we're rapidly growing in 2018. 2019, we were rapidly growing. We felt there was this hunger in the village movement for easier to use technology, right? So a lot of the villages were switching from previous providers to Helpful Village. Even in 2020, that is the year of the pandemic, we kept adding more customers. And now 2021, and now we're close to 100 villages that are using our software. So basically Helpful Village is a fast growing online platform for villages. These are geographical distribution. So I started in Berkeley, California, but now we have more villages in the East than on the West, in all these different locations. One specific example that I'd like to mention is Washington, D.C. So I believe Washington, the city, the capital city, I think they're the most advanced in the nation for villages. This is what the district looks like. And all these different areas there are different villages. So half of the village is already covered by villages. And we have 12 villages using Helpful Village in the city, including Capitol Hill Village and many of these other villages there that are using our software. There are many things we like about DC, but one of the things that we like about DC is that the Department of Aging, so taxpayers' money, are funding the villages in DC because they realized how much they were helping people in the community and the older adults. And part of it is because we were able to show with our reports the data, right? How many members are we helping? How many services are we providing? How many events and event participations have been done? And because we were able to come back to the Department of Aging saying, yeah, we have the numbers, we have been helping all these people, they were very happy. And actually they said they have increased the funding for villages when they saw, in particular during the pandemic, that villages were very adaptive and were helping people in their homes a lot. So this data and reporting aspect is something that is very important to me, and Washington DC understands it and gives funding based on the effective results of the village. This is another work that we do and we're very serious about in Helpful Village is the diversity. So as you can see from my accent, I'm Hispanic. My mom doesn't speak English, so it was important to me that the village movement basically included people from all ethnicities and groups. And we are very active working with this African-American village in Columbus, Ohio. We have an African-American church in Washington, DC. We help support the first Spanish-speaking village in Central Florida, which is this Pueblos en la Comunidad. We made available our software in Spanish. So we really care about extending the reach of the village movement to more diverse communities. And now we can talk about money. So how much does it cost? And now this is the good news, that it doesn't cost much. There is a monthly fee associated with Helpful Village. And we have two packages. We have the in-development package. When you're creating a new village, you have the established village package, essentially when you are running operations. So in development, it's like you were saying before, it's like, well, we're preparing the website, we're doing some events, but we don't have members yet, etc. So you would use this package. And this package only costs $30 per month, okay? There is a one-time enrollment fee of $300 one time, right? So you pay you $300 to set up the database to get you going and stuff like that. And then every month you pay $30 flat fee. Now, what we have seen in the movement is kind of a no-brainer because this is super affordable and is the easiest software. That's the reason why most of the in development villages that the movement sees in creation are choosing Helpful Village today. So mostly, I mean, the majority of new villages in the movement are starting with Helpful Village. This is just a number of examples of villages that are started last year with us. Now there is a second package, right, which is called the Established Village Package. And this is two things. One is you start in development and then you become established when you're ready to start offering services and managing membership and stuff like that. The pricing of these packages is $1 per member per month. So if you have a village that has, and there is a minimum of 50. So if you have, let's say 45 members any given month, you would pay us $50. If the next month you have 52 members, you pay us $52. If the next month you have 54 members, you pay us $54, right? So it's just very easy. Just every month you're going to count the number of members you have, and then our monthly fee is going to be the same, but in dollars, right? Now, that's for the monthly fee. There is established fee here. But don't be scared because I don't know if you, well, first, it's just super cheap. It costs $1 per month. A coffee in the Bay Area costs $4. So it's like we should have everyone on a village. That's for what I think. Now, the enrollment fee here is different. Now, this enrollment fee, when people sign up with us with the in development village, right, package, they pay the $300. They never pay this fee. So I'm going to repeat this. They never pay this fee because they are starting their village and they go, they slowly build their village and they're making progress and stuff like that. At one point, they're ready to switch and there is no upgrade fee and they don't pay these $3,000, right? The $3,000 are here for villages that started with the wrong tech provider, right? And then basically we need to do a lot of work to convert all the data that they had in their previous database so that we put all that data into Helpful Village, okay? So in that case, yeah. So you need to pay this fee. It's something that we have done. The good news is that we have done it multiple times. Today is more than 35 villages that have switched from Club Express to Helpful Village, right? Because they realized it was easier for them to use. And basically, they pay this one-time enrollment fee and then they start paying the monthly fee. Of the villages that we saw in DC, we have these 12, I think. I think Capitol Hill was with Salesforce, but 8 of the other villages were with Club Express and they have all switched to Helpful Village today. Now, the other good news is that the migration process is pretty easy. What you need to do is that you would create a spreadsheet file. Actually, it's a report you can produce from Club Express, and that's a spreadsheet file of, well, all your members, active members, stuff like that, and you get those spreadsheet files, you send them to us, and then we have written this program that puts, okay, this from the spreadsheet file, the first name column goes into here, into the database, and basically we put everything in the database on our own. Okay, now why doing that? First of all, because Helpful Village is the most advanced, higher quality services for members. So this is the pyramid we were showing before. We have a higher level of quality that other providers do. The other good reason is that basically everyone is doing it, right? So most of the village movement have been switching to Helpful Village. So we invite you to consider doing the same. This is Columbus, same thing as DC. And this is super important. I want to talk about this, which is the reporting, right? Reporting is super important. As I said before, it's looking at the data that you can see what's the impact a village has on its community, how efficient the organization is. I think there is a strong connection with the funding as we did in DC because the villages were able to produce this report. This report you can see on the left, we call it an impact report. You click on one button and it's gonna produce the number of members your village has, the number of volunteers your village has, the community hours that have been done in the year, the number of events that have been organized, how many events have been attended, what is the number of services that have been provided, how many check-ins have been done, etc. So now we want you to use those data to basically go request your mayor, your county, your state, whatever, or donors or foundations showing how efficient community building organization you are, and then basically so they can receive proper funding. We do a ton of other reports. In our experience, for all the villages we have migrated from Club Express, that Club Express had these several hundred reports. But most of the villages we have been helping, they were not using them because they were essentially spreadsheet files. In our case, what we do is mostly strategic reports. I mean, you can have the same reports, you know, if you want to have the list of active members, you will have the list of active members with their names, their emails and stuff like that. But something we do that our competition doesn't is just we give you these strategic overviews. This, for example, on the right is our board report that we produce. The board report gives you here the demographic curve. So what is the age distribution of your members, right? So you can see here that in this particular village, they have about 3 or 4 members that are between 96 and 100 years old. Most of their members are between 76 and 80. So basically we produce some information that helps you make strategic decisions about, well, these are age demographic, these are the memberships that are working the best, these are the services that are working the best. For example, during COVID, we saw villages that were able to use this report to say, okay, we're not doing transportation as much because people didn't want to get into the same car, but we're doing grocery delivery a lot more, right? So you can just measure and adapt your volunteer teams based on what the data says. And with that, I think I'm going to pause right there, and I'm going to apologize because I know that it's a lot of information that I'm sending your way. Obviously, as you know, we have been working on years on making villages super efficient. So so there is a lot to talk about, but I definitely think because villages are these complex organizations that it's a good idea to use a village-specific technology. And with that, I'm open for questions.
Manuel, thank you so much for the presentation. I wanted to ask in our context, if you could speak a little bit more about how the platform works with hub and spoke arrangements and what the alignment needs to be between hub and spoke using same platform.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good question. Let me share my screen again. So these are our largest hub and spoke villages. This is one of our customers called Marine Villages. So what they do is that they have a hub here that's called Marine Villages, but they're serving all these different towns. I don't know how familiar you are with the Bay Area, but basically this is Tiburon, San Rafael, Twin Cities, Novato, Mill Valley, Ross Valley. So all these are 4 different towns. So they create these 4 different kind of villages, right? Then when you, I need to go back to demo, but when you create a service request here, you know, depending on where the member lives, you see here, this is where the spokes happen, right? So you have this list here saying this is downtown, this is East Harlem, you know, Harlem North, etc. So basically, these are different neighborhoods, and I'm an admin, I can see all of them. But if I'm a volunteer, I would see only the service requests for the areas I volunteer for. So if I'm only volunteering for East Harlem, this list will be way shorter because basically I'm not seeing what's coming, you know, the requests that are happening for downtown and other things. So that's one thing, is how, you know, basically where do you volunteer on, right? If you go back to the volunteer profile here of my mom, for each one of these volunteers, you can say, okay, she volunteers in East Harlem, East River, East Side, and that's it. So basically, it's the same.
Yeah, that makes sense. What if like you have a membership form? If so, is the form, the fields that would be used for like intake, that would need to be standard across all spokes? There's not customization at the spoke level then. And then like,
yeah. So
what if you have like finance committee for spoke, and then you have a finance committee for the hub? How does like the groups and stuff, how does that work?
Yeah, so it's a great question, Emily. And the thing is that it's a little tricky because the word hub and spoke, right, is doesn't only define one model. See what I'm saying? The one that I showed you is kind of Marine's model, where basically they have one office, and basically they have the staff is not only one office. That office picks up the phone and they do all the administrative work in this only one spot for the 5-6 towns that we saw before. Now, each one of these towns, they have their separate kind of events programming committees. They organize their own events locally in their own local calendars and stuff like that. But basically the whole operation, right, is only one database where the main office can see all of what's happening in all of the different spokes, right? So that's one hub and spoke model. That would be the Marin hub and spoke model. There are more than that, right? Because another very famous hub and spoke model is Villages Northwest in Portland, right? In that other case, they have only one legal entity. So they have one nonprofit organization with different programs. So what basically the common definition of hub and spoke is just sharing, right, among these different local villages, some resources. In Marin, they're sharing an office and the legal entity. In Portland, they share this legal entity and there are different programs, but they have different websites. So this is one. So they are part of Rivers East Villages Northwest. And then here we have, well, wait. So that's good. We're number one in search results. And this is another one. And they have these different websites. You see what I'm saying? And you can. And now what's interesting here is like, how do you understand the hub and spoke model, right? Like if you go on Marin, like you have it's only one database, you can access to the donors of this other spoke and stuff like that. In Portland, it was important for them so that they keep their things and the donors and donations separate and their members' information separate. So there are different programs working similarly and they work together, but separately. Same thing in DC. Remember that I showed you the map with all these different villages. They are different villages. Each one of them, they have a separate website. But then the interesting thing is kind of, we do this taxonomy report. And the taxonomy report, what we're doing is that, because they work together, they have this group that is called DC Villages, right? So this kind of, for me, is a third definition of a hub and spoke. They all have a separate website, but they all receive funding from the Department of Aging. So they want to produce a report that is this taxonomy report that adds up all the numbers of each one of them. See what I'm saying? But now each one of these villages cannot see the data and the member, the donors and stuff like that of their neighbors. See what I'm saying? So you need to decide at your level what level of privacy and transparency each one of the spokes needs to have, right? So I don't think we need to we can have that discussion right now on the call, because it's, you know, I'm sure it's something you need to discuss.
Got it.
The good news there is that you don't need to decide on that now. My recommendation is, hey, you can start with one. See what I'm saying? We have everything shared in the same common. We're sharing the application form and stuff like that. And then when we have one village that is working really well, and then we see, hey, it makes more sense if we basically spin off another village from it, and then we do like they do in DC, kind of we do the taxonomy project so that the hub still has the information of what is the aggregate number of members and services and events, then we can do it. See what I'm saying? So so yeah, so it's a long answer, I'm sorry, but basically hub and spoke is more complex than it sounds. What I mean is that there are different models under the same name.
But as a follow-up, each seems pretty basic to me. Each spoke would have to be on the same platform as the hub. They'd all have to be like Helpful Village.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. But now also in short, like they do in Portland, they decided they have different websites. So this villagewithoutwalls.org, and then this one would be riverseastvillage.org. You see what I'm saying? So, and they have different homepages and stuff like that, where in Marin, they all have the same homepage here. See what I'm saying? These Marin villages, and then from here, and then from here, they link to the different local villages. So you can come here to the main one from the hub, and then click on Mill Valley Village, and then here, the explanation of Mill Valley Village with the whatever events they are doing in Mill Valley specific. So you see, it's like one website where you have these sub chapters, right, that are the local villages, or separate websites that work together and they put their numbers in common. And all of the, you know, whatever options you choose, that works for us. It's like, obviously what's interesting is that all the spokes are using the same platform. It's easy for us to add up the numbers, right? So what we do in DC is that when they go back to the Department of Aging, they go with the aggregate number of members they all have, the 12 villages, right? So that shows a bigger number, right? So you have a different voice when you're talking to them. You can say, well, we have, I don't know, 5,000 members, rather than if you say, well, we have 300. It's not, it's not the same conversation.
Right.
Okay, perfect.
Manuel, I wanted to ask about your basic setup cost, that
Yes.
$300. Does that include website development?
So what that does is we create the website, the platform for you. We give you a baseline website that has, some pages, some structure and stuff like that. And then for your specific content, you go in and you enter the content with the editor and you edit the pages yourself.
Okay, so do you have anyone who provides information, architecture information, like setting up sections and menus that are
Yeah. Yes.
quality and designers and stuff like that? Is that part of your package?
Yeah, it's a great question. So let me show you a few things. First one is, like, you should know about this. We have a help center that is called support.helpfulvillage.com. Okay. And basically this is kind of a smart system where you can navigate the documentation about Helpful Village. So if you want to see here, the different phases, the getting started, the promote your village, social phase, membership, management, etc. If you want to know about editable website, you would go in here. And then you have these different questions: how to edit an editable page, how to create a page, how to clone a page, and you have all these. So there is a lot of documentation that is made available here where you can learn how to do it yourself. In some cases, and let me go back here. For example, here, if you want to know, well, how do we do the migration? You type the question and the system will say, okay, how does the migration work? You click on that and then you have the information. You don't need to browse, the per section. You can find the answers on the platform like this. Now, in some cases, I understand, in particular for the website building, that sometimes you want to do it. Some villages do themselves. Sometimes you don't want to do it because you prefer if we do it ourselves. We were working with this other village. Let me see if I have it here. Ooh, this is dangerous. Oh yeah, here. And this is what, look at this. This is really interesting. I'm really happy because I didn't know where this document was and it came up very easily. When you're building a website, this is what we suggest. First, that you design on a website structure. And this is basically, what do you want to talk about? And this is essentially this. You have the menus, right? What are the different pages you want to have on your website? It's like, maybe you want to have an About Us page. Then maybe you want to have a history page. Explore this website, organization. Then we have another section, which is events. So basically, this is a table of contents, right? It's essentially the structure of your website. So that's the first thing we invite you to do, is saying, okay, organize, what do you want to talk about, and how do you organize it? As if you were a librarian, how do you organize this information? Second thing we recommend you do is that you set up your search engine strategy. So this word SEO is a little weird, but it's basically, how do you want to be found on the search engines, on Google, on Bing? When people search on the internet, you want to be found. You remember we said village without walls, and they were at the very top of the search results. That's what we want for your village. The way to do that is that you need to decide on what are the terms that are important to you when people search in your area, right? That they find you. For example, for these guys could be Pasadena Village. We want to be found if people type village movement or aging place and stuff like that. You need to decide on those words. Third step is you need to start writing what's the content for those pages, right? Like we invite you to set up this description of all of the structure that you have before, right? Each one of these pages, you want to write some text and images about that. So basically, this website content is basically this text plus images. And the fourth step would be the website design, which is, okay, all of these steps that you have here, you essentially would recommend you do that on Word or Google Docs or something. You see what I'm saying? It's not a technical work, it's just about content. When you have your content ready, we invite you to say, okay, now we can make it look good. What are the pages? How would you like them to look like? Like maybe 2 columns, 3 columns and stuff like that. So the fourth step, which is this design aspect, is what I understand you would be considering in getting assistance for it, right? Because for the rest, just you need to know what you're talking about. And then for the fourth one, the website has these editable websites. You can find, a local designer in your area that does it, a student or something like that, or a volunteer that was, that has some experience in website design. We can also do it for you if you want us to do it. But then obviously that's not including the $300 fee. We have an hourly fee we can talk about. And the hourly fee we actually have two different hourly fees. There is a $50 per hour hourly fee with our support team. So that's essentially a person that knows is actually the person that's managing the support system. So she gets all the questions, she knows the platform inside out and stuff like that. She's not an engineer, but she can get stuff done. And that's $50 a month. Sorry, a month. $50 an hour. And then there is another choice is $100 an hour, which is with an engineer, a tech person. And obviously that's a person that knows how to code and that can get anything done on the website design side. So so basically the recommendation here is, well, you do all your homework on what do you want to talk about, what is the text, images, etc. And then if you want to add it to the website, you can, as I showed you before with the editor. But if you want to have something a little prettier and more advanced, you can hire either externally or with us paying this hourly fee.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Question. How complex can the templates be? Can they use CSS, HTML, JavaScript, stuff like that?
Yes. So
Bootstrap?
yeah, so I can show you.
I'm sorry.
Providers info, about providers info. Let's go here. Okay, we're gonna edit this page, right? Like we saw before. And I'm gonna delete everything we have in there.
Screen share?
Sorry, you're right, thank you. I forgot that. Screen share here. Okay, so it just shows a page. Let me do it again. Let me save this. So I did a few things. I thought I was sharing my screen. So you go here, info, you have this menu, organizational info. This is structure I was saying you should set up, right? It's like, what do you want to talk about on your website? And then you have one of them is service providers. You want to say something about service providers, but here, when you choose this option, this page is empty, right? So you want to create this page, you want to edit it. So now here we have some templates. You can choose some fields here. What is the title of your page? You can have keywords for Google and stuff like that, but essentially the design of the page is happening down here, okay? And when it happens down here, you can have a choice of different web templates that are available to you. So you can say insert the template, and then here we can choose to have a template with 3 columns with pictures, right? So you choose this option, and then basically that adds to your page some design element that you can edit there from here, right? So you just this is an example. For example, in this, let's say that this is your board, and then you can come down here and say, well, these are board president, Mary, board president. Then you come here and you edit all of this, right? And then I want to replace a picture. That's very easy too. I can come here. I'm thinking if I have a picture of myself somewhere, but I can upload a picture here. And then this would, oh, this one, perfect. Puff. That's way too big, but if we do, okay, so now I replace the picture. Now it's a picture of myself. I'm not called Mary, come on. And then basically that's how you edit the website. You have these web components that are made available to you, and then you can edit the page, etc., and then just save the page, and then you have your page that is going. Obviously, you can repeat that with different templates and stuff like that, but that's kind of how the website building goes. Now, as for the style sheet, something we do some customization of the style sheet here. We have some villages that use these blue and red and stuff like that for dominant pages, but we don't give access to the style sheet. And the main reason is for a security reason. So I know style sheet is set to be for design, but there are some stuff that you can do that is a little bit dangerous with the style sheet because you can move things around. You can move buttons, the sign in and stuff like that. So there is some customization of the style sheet that you can do, but it's something that you need to do with us. So basically we do that modification for you. We do not allow for what you said. So basically the village is writing code, JavaScript or jQuery or anything like that. I think villages should be focusing on something else. And also the other thing is, it's just, we believe it's just just dangerous what people can do with code. You need to know that security is a high priority for us. About not being hacked, I need to tell you more about that. Is that from my background?
I'm sorry, I'm gonna apologize. I have to go to another meeting, but I want to thank you before I buzz off.
Thank you, Teresa.
I'm sure I'll speak to the rest of the group. Thank
You're
you.
lucky you avoided the security discussion. just
I
kidding.
don't want to avoid it, but I'm going to be late for something else.
I know. Thank you. It was great having you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. So yeah, so what I was saying about security is that in my background, before I was doing Helpful Village, I was project manager in Geneva, in Switzerland, and I was project manager for the online voting system. So my job was making sure that nobody was hacking the election in Geneva. So I had extensive training in working with hackers so that we made sure nobody was messing with the election results. So that same training that I received in security is something that I have applied to Helpful Village, right? Because I had it, because I think the data of the people that we're dealing with is very important, because in some cases they can be frail and can be taken advantage of. So I'm super serious about the security of the platform. See what I'm saying? So in some cases, when I see there is some risk or something like that, I'll be very careful. But the reverse side of that is that we have an excellent security rating with the security measures that we set up, and we get, I believe we give you the highest guarantees about protecting the data of your members and volunteers.
So it's like a trade-off.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, it's like,
yeah,
I understand.
And the choice on our case, because I want to sleep tight with all these, older members that are in different places, that we definitely maximize security always to make sure that we do that. Now, what is interesting that obviously we have the flexibility, knowing that, there was this question before about volunteers that are vaccinated, want to be with members that are vaccinated and stuff like that. So we do customizations of the software based on the feedback that we receive from villages. So we meet with these, close to 100 customers we have every month, and they come back with questions. Now we're working with Houston on this specific case of I was saying, when there is a tornado, there's a power outage, they wanted to be able to send a text message to other members saying, well, how are you doing, right? And if someone is not responding, showing them on a map to make sure that maybe we need to call 911 to check on that member, because maybe he's not doing great. So so that's how basically we make changes to the system going forward.
I wanted to ask whether you share the information, the data that you gather, that are gathered on your sites.
Yeah, no, we don't.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's actually your data. So so we definitely don't share your data, and we invite you that you're very careful. One of the things you need to be very careful is with the reports that we were saying before, because we can keep the data secure in our platform. But then, when you download a report with a list of members and stuff like that, you need to be super careful about how you manage that information too. But it's a great question. I like that, Janet.
Next question. I do have another question, is what happens if we need a custom module only for our village? What's the rate per hour if you had do you develop a custom module for us, and what's the rate per hour for that?
Yeah, so great question. Now, so we have two different things. As I mentioned before, all we do is villages, right? So we want to make the great software for villages. So we hear back constantly, and then there are some improvements we do for all villages. There's this great idea, for example, adding Zoom to our calendar was suggested by one of the villages in DC. Was not even my idea. That makes me look smart when I do the demo, but it was not my idea. I just coded it. And then, but I thought, well, this is a great idea. We can add it there. And I know many other villages will be interested. So we just add it to the platform for everybody, right? And the main rule is that when we do something for all villages where we're not charging. Now, in some cases, it can happen that your specific village needs something that is only for you, right? And then if we're spending time only for you, then in that case, it can be done. But then we apply the customization rate that we mentioned before. So if it's tech work, that would be the $100 per hour that we said before. We have done it before. I can give you an example. We're working with the city of San Francisco, right? I mean, with a village that reports to the city of San Francisco. City of San Francisco provides funding for the village, but they have requirements. One of the requirements they had is that they need to know what was the sexual orientation, the sex at birth, and other demographic questions that they need to ask in San Francisco. So that's something that we're doing for San Francisco that other villages didn't need to have that level of detail. So because we were doing it for them, so okay, well, you know, now we're working specifically for your one village, but then you would need to pay this hourly fee. I mean, it was not too much, is what I'm saying. It's just can be maybe 1 hour. So they pay $100 once to get this specific report they needed for their city. Perfect. Okay, I also would have one question on my side, and this is a question and a comment. My first comment is I want to thank you for the meeting, because this is really interesting. I feel that there is a lot of interest and intensity during the meeting, so that is great. And my question is about basically your timeline. So, because I know that, Kim, we have been talking for a while, for a couple of months, not regularly, but from time to time. So I don't know if you guys have an idea of a timeline on, you know, when do you think you are potentially making moves or choosing software or deploying village operations, etc. Is there any kind of plan you can share with me?
Well, the village launch will probably be in about a year.
Mm-hmm.
There will be certain things that would need to be developed before that, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
so that we're ready for launch.
Mm-hmm.
The village has not yet decided on their own timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the people, a lot of the people have left from that. Basically who you have with you right now are mostly North Jersey Village Hub people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I don't want to answer for them, but I can just give you a general idea. That's where, yeah.
I would make a comment on that, is that sometimes we work with villages that come to us, right, and they get the software because they want a little bit too late, when they want, oh, we need the software because we're running the volunteer operation next month. Is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
In my view, it's not the smartest choice, because
Right.
I invite you to consider the software as a training platform, actually, because if you have a village committee, I have seen this several times, where people get together around, living room table, and then, okay, how do we organize? How do we do this and stuff like that? But basically, in a way, it's reinventing the wheel that has already been invented with other villages. When you use the software is going to guide you. It's going to guide you through the process, like we just did together. It's like, oh, you want to create a service request? Well, this is how villages do it across the country. You go in, you find the person, the date, the time, etc. It goes into a list, and then there is an automatic email that goes out at 10. So, whatever is invented, reinventing the wheel in that living room table, we cannot build software, 100 different software for 100 different villages. So in a way, it's like, well, obviously you can coordinate things in that living room table, but how about we use the software to learn how other villages are successfully carrying out this operation in other areas of the country, and not wait until the operation happens, but really learn how to operate a village based on the experience of other villages that are operating today. So
so we're using, we're recommending that they use the task list that we've developed. It's on an Excel spreadsheet, and the timeline, I'm sure somewhere in around 6 months before the launch is where the actual use, the hands-on use comes in. So I don't have that in front of me right now, and I didn't want to switch off, but yes, and they can talk about that. Manuel, I'm going to be very honest with you. North Jersey Villages is with Club Express.
Yeah.
Okay, so Glen Rock is looking at both and deciding how they want to go. So, but obviously, maintaining the hub and spoke model would be difficult if we were on 2 different platforms. So just in all honesty, so those
absolutely. Well, first, thank you for sharing that. I kind of knew. Now, I will tell you also that there is a trend in the movement. As I said before, we have migrated more than 35 villages from Club Express to Helpful Village. And the example of DC, they were mostly 90% on Club Express. They moved out for a reason. That's the first thing I would say. Second is the 2 generations of software are very different, right? When Club Express was created, was essentially created as back office software, right? That village administrators do, but people are not supposed to log in. That is not sustainable for the long term, in my view. See what I'm saying? It's like with more and more villages that sign up with us, we see an expectation of members and volunteers to want to log in and have a platform that is really easy for them to use. And that is only something that can happen, in my view, in Helpful Village. We have people that are coming from Club Express that are saying, well, you know, now we can have our members and volunteer log in. When we were in Club Express, it was not imaginable because it would not be possible. You know, it's not easy for them to use and log into the platform. So obviously it's your decision. You see what I'm saying? I'm just sharing with you what I have heard from other people that have made the decision to replace their previous platform for a new platform.
Your migration fee is very steep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but you know, the thing is first, it's a one-time fee. It takes some effort to go through all the data that you have and stuff like that. And then the thing is also, sometimes you need to put a little bit of money to have basically people using the software, right? You can always find cheaper, right? You may run a village without any software at all, just with a spreadsheet file. But then how many volunteers are using?
And many of them have done that. Many continue to do that.
Now, for enrollment fee, I understand that would be the only reason you may consider, because the monthly fee is so low. You see what I'm saying? I don't know how many members you have, but you have 50 members, you pay $50. So that's kind of a ridiculous amount. So I agree with you. The enrollment fee is the topic to discuss. We do have payment options, so you can spread out that payment over time. So $3,000 you can pay at once, or you can pay over 3 years and stuff like that. The other thing that I invite you to consider is that maybe you don't need to pay those $3,000. Many times we have had villages that applied for a grant because grantors want to make sure that the nonprofits
we've made our investment, you know, and that's part of it. So we still have, you know, an investment that we're living off of. So that's, you know, you're talking about an additional investment. But I just wanted to be very honest with you about you know, where we are.
Yeah.
And it will be Glenrock's decision as to what they do. So, but that's where we are.
Perfect. Absolutely. So I'm all about sharing information about what our company is. I'm transparently, I'm all about the facts and figures. So I showed you what.
Well, I'm not impressed. I'm just also, we are where we are. And there are things that are offered by Club Express that you do not. So.
Yeah, I can tell you that we have 0 customers going the other way, but that's fine. I don't want to argue with you. You see what I'm saying?
No, I don't know. You know, but there are many who are staying with Club Express also. So okay.
Perfect. Okay.
No, I don't.
I mean, the numbers are not, you know what I mean, is that the numbers are very clear, but you can have your own opinion. That's fine.
It's been very, very informative.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know if there are any other final questions, but if it's not the case, I think we probably should stop there.
Yeah, great. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
It's a great presentation.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for your presentation.
I just want, Manuel, I just want to reiterate what Kathy mentioned, that in terms of the Glenrock people, of which I am one, as opposed to the hub people that are still on the call, really the three major leaders of this, 4 major leaders of this effort from the Glenrock side. One is going to see the recorded version. She wasn't able to make either one. One was only able to, was not able to be at all on this call. And the other 2, including the one who just apologized and made it almost all the way through, are not still on the call. So in terms of, you know, us as Glenrock residents and what we see for our own village, it's still very much a discussion in terms of platforms and things, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. So for me, we can definitely share the recording and then analyze the different options, and then, you know, you let us know if we can help you. That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Yes.
Who
Thank
is
you.
your contact?
Bye-bye. Have a
Who
good
is your
day.
contact with all of us? Kim, are you also the contact to Manuel?
Yes,
Did you
Columbus
set this
is the
up?
contact.
Columbus?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, like
all right.
myself.
So we can, all right. So
Okay.
we'll be in touch. All right. Thank you
Thanks,
so
everybody.
much.
Have a good day.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Appreciate
you
it,
very much.
appreciate it. I appreciate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.